Hello, everyone, and welcome to International Coaches Club, the podcast where international coaches share their stories and how they've made an impact on their sport in the US, from college programs to professional and national teams. I'm your host, Liran Zamir. Entering her fifth season leading the diving program at SUNY Cortland, she has built a nationally respected program and earned multiple Coach of the Year honors. With a stop at Cornell University, her athletes consistently qualify for NCAA championships, set school records, and win conference titles on both the men's and women's sides. Before coaching, she represented Argentina in the sport of diving, a four-time Olympian, world champion, Pan American medalist, and internationally recognized. Even today, she continues to compete at the highest levels, most recently winning multiple gold medals at the World Master Championships. An elite athlete and a coach whose impact spans generations in a unique sport around the world, Verónica Ribot-Canales is my guest today.
Hi, Liran. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I wanted to ask you what stood out the most from the introduction.
Let's see. The generations I've been coaching. It's making me feel I've been around a long time. Yeah. Still trying to compete at the highest levels. Well, masters diving is, the highest level that I was at was the Olympics, and masters diving is kind of like for folks who continue to be passionate about the sport. They still want to be involved. They want to dive, and it's all the way up to 90-year-olds and 4-year increment age groups. So I'm just happy that I can flip around at my age still and do something that I love. It's on a different level than the Olympics, but it's still fun to compete and to share the camaraderie with all the other masters divers.
And it's really, really cool. I think you're the first coach who's still competing while coaching that I interview. But you were in this unique situation where you're still competing while coaching. So I was wondering, what do you see yourself first and foremost? Do you see yourself an athlete or a coach?
I think that because I was an athlete first and for such a long time, and that I want to continue to be healthy and keep my fitness and longevity as I age, I still see myself as an athlete every day, but just sharing my knowledge from the coaches that have helped me to become the best level that I could as a diver, and sharing that with the student athletes that I work with. So I think, it's definitely both, but what really keeps me passionate about the sport is that I still compete in it. So it keeps me fresh and just more motivated.
That's very cool. And you competed in 4 Olympic Games across the years, different eras, and now in the Masters. So, do you see the sport kind of changing around you from when you started till today, and how do you adapt to it as a coach?
Oh, absolutely. Like the old adage, records are meant to be broken. Of course, the sport has come a long way since I started diving when I was about 8 or 9 years old in the Bahamas, where I grew up, and started diving at a YMCA. Even since the Olympics, the last Olympics I competed in Barcelona in 92. I used to compete 8 dives as a woman on the platform, and the women do 10 dives now. So they've added dives, they've added difficulty, and it's just continuously amazing how the human body can perform these crazy activities on the equipment that we have in springboard and platform diving, and the training methods and everything that has improved. For sure, it's changed all around. And in terms of adapting it to my coaching, I'm coaching in Division III. I've coached in Division I Ivy League. I've coached my own age group team. The division that I coach at is not the highest level of competition. None of those folks are thinking or preparing for Olympics. A lot of those folks want to be on a team, have fun, enjoy being on a university team. It gives them family and friends. and there's different levels of interest and motivation there. So, I mean, I always try to coach at the highest level that I know technically, and it's kind of like it's there for them for the taking if they want it. Um, but I haven't had to really, you know, go through the roof in terms of switching up my coaching to get to the very highest levels. Plus, it also has to do with what equipment you have available for your use at your university, the time you have available for the students. They train once a day, a couple hours, whereas in Division 1, schools train 2 times a day. I mean,
Mhm.
in diving, they'll have a morning and an afternoon workout. Our students also do weights a couple times a week. So it's a limited thing, I mean, they're going to school at the same time and just as the most competitive schools are. But so yeah, it's tailored to their level of uh, of skill at where they're at and what we have available for them.
All right, that's really cool. And you mentioned that you grew up in the Bahamas. You know, you were representing Argentina in the Olympic Games. In some games, you represented the U.S., not the Olympics. You said you grew up in the Bahamas. Can you tell us your story of growing up, getting into the sport, and then switch to coaching and living in those different countries?
Yeah, my family moved from Argentina. I was born in Argentina and Buenos Aires, and we moved when I was about 6 years old. And we moved to the Bahamas. It was a big, huge move. My mom was very adventurous, and we had she had a work opportunity there. And we got out of Argentina kind of in when it was kind of turbulent times. And so, I mean, when I think about that, it's such an amazing move across the world that I would have probably been a completely different person and probably never dived if I grew up in Argentina. So I had all these opportunities and it was just totally healthy and sunshine and warmth and an island and um, that I was afforded the opportunity to be on a swim team with my brother at the YMCA. And I really got into diving. I really got into swimming because the doctors in Argentina I had asthma, a type of asthma, and coughed all the time. And
Hmm.
so the doctors recommended swimming. That would be great to open up my bronchial tubes and good for me. So I started with swimming, and my brother was a really good swimmer. And I was kind of just like searching for my own limelight. He was really good. And swimming was up and down and up and down and boring. And I wasn't thrilled. It was kind of like medicine for me, although it was fun and being on a team with all our friends and like that. But we both also did diving. So I just kind of stuck to the diving and it was more of a thrill, like to be able to do a dive that you're scared of and then you finally get off the board and do it. And it's like a real high. So I got into diving that way. I had a British coach, my first coach in the Bahamas, because it was a British colony at the time we moved there. So yeah, I lived there with my family until I was about 15 years old, and then we moved to Miami, Florida.
That's very cool. Um, yeah, a little bit more about you as a coach. So I was wondering, I've never played in the Olympics or coached in the Olympics. A lot of coaches haven't, and they're still really good at their craft. But you participated in 4 Olympics. What did the Olympic experience taught you about your sport that no coaching education or anything like that, any courses would teach you if you haven't competed in the sport?
Well, I think being on the world's most competitive stage in your sport teaches you I mean, before you even get there, you have to hone these methods of real focus and quality. And now you're going to be exposed to the highest level as you compete before the Olympics and international meets with people from other countries. So you're really like the cream of the crop. And it just teaches you the amount of focus and um, attention to detail that's important and in all of your various trainings that you need to do, kind of like when nobody's watching. What are you doing when nobody's watching for
Hmm.
yourself to get better and to improve? So that's kind of come along with me as a coach. I'm very much of a detailed person, just personality wise. I don't know if it's came from the diving or I was just born like that, but it's just everything is I'm actually so nitpicky that my partner calls me the editor because I always find like what's missing or, you didn't do this or, you could do that better. And, diving is a judged sport. So I think it just really teaches you attention to detail and details matter.
Very good. That's awesome. And when you retired or not, when did you realize that coaching is going to be your next station after competing in that and the high level? Was it during your competitions and while being an athlete, or you stopped, took a second, and then you realized you wanted on the sidelines or a side of the pool for that matter?
Um, I think the diving personally for me was the biggest passion in my life. I didn't really know I was going to be a coach until after. And I also went through what a lot of international and Olympic athletes go through when they retire is that depression of the lost identity of who am I now? I was an Olympic diver all my life, all these years. Now, what do I do with myself? So I actually didn't start coaching till later. And I actually retired two times from the sport. I retired after my second Olympic participation after the Seoul Olympics in 1988. And just to clarify, four-time Olympian, I made the Olympic team in 1980 for Moscow, but Argentina also supported the boycott. So I ended up not physically going and competing in those games, although I was selected.
Hmm.
So by the time I physically went to my second Olympics, I thought this is about the best I'm going to be able to do. I'm getting on in years with the amount of support or lack of support, financial. It's really hard to do this, and I need to get a job. And I was 26, and so I retired after the Seoul Olympics. And then I went into teaching in my field, physical education. So I taught second, third, and fourth grade in Miami. And I was pretty bitter about having to feeling like I had to retire and move on because I felt like I still had a lot more in me and potential that I hadn't reached. So I taught school for about a year and a half and then, got the bug to return. And my husband at the time, he just really supported me and encouraged me and kind of said, do this. How many people can say they've been to three Olympics? You'll regret it later if you don't. And so he was fully supportive. And I had to take a leave of absence from the PE position. And I went back to training for Barcelona. Um,
Oh,
yeah, I came back to training in 1990, so it was 2 years before the 3rd Olympics that I went to, my last games. And so, yeah, I it was hard, and I went back into it, and, yeah, and that was actually my best success was the 3rd time I went to the Olympics where I was the only woman finalist, top 12 on both, Olympic events. At the time, there was only the 3-meter springboard and 10-meter platform. There was no synchronized diving yet as an Olympic event. So, that was my claim to fame, being the only one that made the Olympics, out of all the women there. Um, a lot of people wanna ask you, the most commonly asked question, "Did you get a medal?" As if that's really easy to do, the top 3 people out of all the people in the world that 36 women competing or whatever it is, and so on any given day, it's anybody's ball game and just depends on how you compete, but, so yeah, I retired after the Seoul Olympics, and then I came back in '90 for Barcelona. I think I kind of went off on a trail. What was your original question? I was
the
going
original
to
question was what made you kind of push towards coaching after that?
right, right. So then after the '92 games, let me just think about this. That's when I changed countries. So I went from diving for Argentina. I was like, I'm going for 4 more years. I'm going for '96 for Atlanta, and I'm going to see how well I can do in this country because I'm tapped out. I've represented Argentina for 14 years. I left my country when I was 6. Oftentimes, I don't get to go to all the meets that I want to go to because of the financial situation. And so I threw my hat in the ring. Switched I had become a US citizen in '91, I think it was. And, um, and then I started thinking, okay, I'm going to compete in the US nationals now because you had to be a citizen to compete. So I never competed in the US nationals. I was just diving internationally for Argentina.
Hmm.
I wanted my chance to see where I measured up with the US girls. And then I won 2 US nationals on 3-meter springboard. So I was kind of at the top of the echelon here in the States. And so my goal was to go to, my first Olympic Games for the US in Atlanta. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. And I did go to the US Olympic trials in Indianapolis in '96. And I didn't have the best meet that I needed to be able to qualify for games. And so I
Hmm.
retired after that time. And then after that, I think I just did a few triathlons. My husband at the time was a cyclist, and he was training me on the bike, and I did a couple of those things to keep in shape, and then I started coaching some high school kids at my nearby pool, and then I was trying to get a contract to use the pool at that junior college, and until the time that I got a contract, I was training those kids in my backyard. I had a trampoline with a spotting rig above it where I could pull them up in the harness and the ropes. And we did abdominals and theory of diving. I was kind of teaching them, this is what you're going to do in a pool. And then eventually we got a contract, and I started my own US club team age group. And so I was coaching a bunch of young kids. And that's how I kind of slid into coaching. It was kind of like the next natural thing to do, kind of share your knowledge. And I was still really competitive minded, like with my own. I think it just spilled over into my coaching. I wanted to be a successful athlete, and I wanted my athletes to be successful athletes. So I had a real drive and desire to help them. And I did that for like 10 years before moving to Ithaca, where I got the coaching job at Cornell.
That's very cool. And I love that you pushed towards coaching all of your experience, and that I'm sure you had many more years of giving to the next generations, because it's really important. That's what we do as coaches. We want to teach and we want to share from our experiences. So the fact that such a experienced athlete such as you are giving back, it speaks volumes, and it's important. And then you build successful programs at Cornell and at sunny Cortland now. So I'm wondering, as a top athlete going to so many Olympics, you have to have non-negotiables in the way you train and the way you think. What are your non-negotiables as a coach?
Well, whether they take me up on it or not, I can't coach any other way than to I always try to get the best potential out of the athlete that I can. But that's kind of a double-edged sword a lot of times, because you can have your idea of where this athlete can get to with their potential and skill level, but they have to want to find their best level. So if they're not on the same page as you are, it can be frustrating as a coach. And, everybody has their own goals. You can't put your goals for them. You
Hmm.
kind of have to ask them, what are your goals? Like, I'll take you to the moon if you want to go there. I had a young girl on my age group team who started with me as an ex-gymnast. She was 12 years old, and she trained and went all the way to the Olympic trials and won US nationals, and, was sixth at world age groups in Malaysia. And she went as far as she could go. But she just really was like-minded with me. We jived. We wanted the same things for her. So my non-negotiables are really, I coach to get people to the best of their ability, and they have to be willing to take those gems from me and use them. Um, Passion is the thing, the motivating factor. Um, yeah.
That's very good. Passion and just train at the highest level. I think that's fair enough. Um, Now, it's not the most popular sport in the world, but I would say it's one of the prettiest sports, if not the prettiest in the world. And in my eyes, when I watch the Olympics, I love watch diving. But for the people who don't understand how all that works, what separates a good diver from an excellent one, top level one, and then the follow question is like, how do you coach those specifics, especially in the how do you call that? The time that the two people the synchronized. How would you say it?
Synchronized diving. Well, I'll take that one first. In Division 3, we don't have synchronized diving as an event. We're part of the swimming and diving team, and the diving
Mm,
at Division 3 has two events: the 1 meter springboard, that's the low board, and the 3 meter springboard, that's the higher board. And so we contribute to the overall points of the swim team with two events. So swimmers can swim more events than divers can dive, but it depends on the distribution of your talent, whether your divers can contribute a lot of points by winning all their events. But so we don't have synchronized diving. Um, So I haven't really had an opportunity to coach it. I've had an
Mhm.
opportunity to dive it with my partner, but um, yeah. And then the first one, what separates a good diver from a great diver? I would say again, it's their internal fire and drive and desire to achieve their ultimate goals. What's really going to make a great diver?
Anything in the mechanics?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, you may be born with a certain level of skill, and then you can also develop. I've seen coaches develop people that I never thought were going to be anything in diving to become Olympic medalists. So good coaches can teach diving to people that you wouldn't think were. It's kind of like you can't really give up on anyone because everybody can progress, and I've seen it and I've coached them. So everybody has their own level of skill, but then the desire is that big piece, that fire, that motivation, that perseverance, the not giving up. I think that's what's the difference between a good diver and a great diver.
That's very good. And the fact, and you said you have been coached synchronized jump. Again, I want to touch a little bit on that. How did you do that with the other athlete? How did you make sure that you guys are, because sometimes the angle of the camera is from the side and you don't see it's two people. And I think it's incredible.
Yeah, so I've judged internationally before and also so a synchronized dive, it's two people doing one dive, the same dive, and it should look like when the judges are on the side of them, it should look like you see one diver because the other one
Yeah.
is covered up. And there's judges on both sides judging each diver individually. And then there are synchronized judges that judge their timing together, their distance from the board together, their entry together, and their angle of entry together. So there's a lot that goes into it. Now, when I did synchronized diving in Singapore in August at the World Championships, my partner's from California, so we don't even train together. And July at the Nationals was the first time we were going to get together to get our timing down. So that was when my shoulder really flared up, and I had to scratch two events because I couldn't lift my arm up the day after I competed the first time. And then I was supposed to get ready with my partner. So we ended up doing our event on the low board, but at the World Championships, we were going to have to do it on the high springboard. But it didn't matter because we just were able to still get our timing together on our takeoffs. So, fortunately, we're very much like similar body types, similar stature and size. So we look pretty good together and we managed to get our timing down together. And you look at playbacks, you look at a TiVo playback system so you can see exactly what you just did with your timing and what is off or what is good and how you have to adjust it.
That's awesome. I was thinking about the as a coach now, your coach, let's say the highest levels, regardless of D3 or D1, the highest levels, you coach an athletes for 4 years or for the span of the year to perform for a second and a half or 3 seconds. Like it's the fastest ending sport in the Olympics or regardless. You have 2 seconds roughly to perform and then get a score or win or lose. How do you keep engaged throughout the year and in your particular story example for 4 years just for 2 seconds?
Well, it's really more than that, the time of each individual dive, because in the different events, for instance, I had 10 dives on the 3 meter springboard and 8 dives on the platform.
Hmm.
So all those 2 seconds add up to, when you're competing with 36 other athletes, 2 hours or 2.5 hours that you're actually concentrating and focusing on being in your event and being in the moment for each particular dive and how you
Hmm.
prepare before that dive and between those dives until the competition is over with. So I don't really think about it in terms of, wow, that is over so quickly. It's like just your lifestyle of you are training for your sport to be able to compete at the highest level, and you have to keep that focus up for 2 hours. So
Yeah.
it's really tiring, even though it's not an aerobic sport. You get up, you do a dive, you rest, you wait your turn again for 10 times. But it really takes a lot of energy, mental focus, and you're just, at least for me, after 2 hours of that kind of high level attention and focus, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, awesome. You mentioned you were the only female in the finals in the was it Barcelona?
92, yeah, in Barcelona.
And you were also one of the only female coaches in the Ivy League for years. How's that experience feel like for you, being the only woman to represent um, coaches or athletes in this stage of and level of game?
I mean, I really never felt like, oh wow, I'm the only woman here and the rest are guys, seven other guys and myself. I just felt like one of the coaches. So I didn't really think about that. Maybe later you thought about it, but it was a fact. But I brought my knowledge and experience to the league. Um, I was the only Olympian that was coaching, so just like I'm kind of the only Olympian in masters diving. I think there might be a couple other ones, but I just didn't really think about it that way. I just thought that I was just one of the rest of the coaches.
Yeah, well, that's good. The reason I'm asking is because, throughout the years here for me in the US and doing my master's, I came across a fact that in the 90s, early 2000s, over 80% of volleyball, the volleyball world, volleyball coaches were the female volleyball coaches were female in women's sport, in women's volleyball. And today it's less than 40%, meaning men taking more and more coaching opportunities. So, for the young woman coach, do you have any advice how to integrate in the collegiate world and how to kind of at the end be like you and not think about I'm a woman, but I'm just part of the coaching staff and having other people see her as such?
I mean, the advice that I would give is like you really have to obviously have your heart in it and passionate about it. But I mean, it's probably better if you're either you have a very supportive partner, if you have a partner, or you're independent and don't have a lot of other things, responsibilities pulling at you to be completely submerged in it. Um, when I came to Cornell, I had two kids that were 7 and 9. And so their dad wasn't with me at the time. He stayed back in Miami to sell the house. And so it took a while, and I was a single mom doing this. So that was hard. And I'm thankful I had a lot of good friends to help me when I had to travel with the team, with, having my kids at their home, the weekends that I was away. But it does take a lot from you. And so I just my advice would be that to know this going in. I mean, you really need support to be able to do this as a woman, or like I said, a very understanding partner at home to help you if you have kids and just support you in your endeavors and what you want to do.
Okay, very good. That's a good advice. Go back to you. You're still competing and winning world titles now in the Masters, way decades into your career. What's your drive to compete today?
Well, I mean, I think it just keeps one young to think that exercising for health, if I wasn't diving, I'd be doing something else. I mean, when I retired from diving, I was always doing something. I did triathlons, I did short sprint series triathlons. I ran um, with my current partner of 13 years. I mean, he got me into stand up paddleboard racing. So I did that for like 9 years. I mean, I came back to actually dive masters after 26 years out of the sport physically myself. I mean, I would dive a couple times per semester. I taught a PE class called Intro to Springboard Diving at Cornell. So these were students that were just learning how to dive. They were not on a diving team, and it was fun. They loved it. And that was great. And that's the only time I would get up on a board because they would say, "We want to see you dive. We want to see you dive." So I would do a couple of simple dives, but that was it. So when I came back to diving in 2023, I literally went to a diving coach that had over the board spotting harnesses, ropes that could hold you up so you could do your dives
Training wheels
with the
for the
support.
team.
Yeah, training with the support of the coach pulling you. And if a disaster was going to happen, he could stop you and lower you into the water. because I really had to get my awareness again, my kinesthetic awareness of what does it feel like to flip around and do dives I did all my
Mhm.
life and at this age. But I stayed in such good physical condition doing other sports that it really didn't take me very much to get back into it. Granted, I'm not doing 10 dives, I'm doing 7 dives in my age category now
Mhm.
because as you age up, they have you do less and less dives. But it's just still a lot of fun to be able to and I just have this competitive thing. I mean, anything I do, I can't do it recreationally. Anything I do, I feel like I have to
Has
win
to be
at.
the best.
It's yeah, but it's I mean, I'm taming myself down a little bit more as I age and just yeah, you don't have to win everything. And really
Mhm.
I think I do a lot of my physical movement for longevity and just health.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. As a coach, you say you have to demonstrate something physically. I can help my players with their movements. I was a setter when I was back in the day when I was playing. Um, Today, if I wanted to go in and play, that would have been a disaster. My heart would say go, my body would say no, and then it's gonna be just awkward for everyone. But for you, the fact that you're still competing, your athletes see you in a different light. They do you think they think you're more credible, or I don't even know how to ask this question, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
I think that's funny because I don't like to take up time of when I'm supposed to be coaching divers. So my diving practices are separate from when they're in the pool. Although I have done it like last year, a couple times I would be doing my own workout right before they came in. So they
Mhm.
would see me and I don't know if they think, what is this crazy old lady doing? I really don't know. But I would imagine maybe they think, wow, if she can do that trick, I'm a lot younger. So I don't know. I really don't know what they think about it. One of my girls at Cornell, she said something like in one of the articles that came out, she said something like, well, it gives us bragging rights. I mean, she knew that I was an Olympian. So, like, I think she appreciated that aspect of getting to work with somebody who had been all the way to the top level. But as I said, I don't work out at the same time as my divers because also it steals their time away. I mean, I can look at them from the board and then I go and then they go, but then I'm also cold because I'm waiting while they go. And I just like to have my own fluid workout where it's
Got
not being interrupted and I'm not interrupting them. But in terms of what they think, that would probably be a question for them.
it. I know, right? That's cool. All right. Veronica, you're also an international judge for the sport. Is that correct?
I was. I got certified in 2007 before becoming a college coach because well, we're talking about 2 different things. So international judging, I did that for a while. I went to the first judges school that they had in the US in 2007, and I judged all the way through 2013 internationally. I also was on the first paid professional panel of NCAA judges when they started having, neutral judging panels, like, instead of the coaches were the
Yeah.
judges, they
Hmm.
wanted neutral panel. So when you had a neutral panel, you could not be selected among your peers if you were a college coach. You had to not be a college coach to judge
I see.
NCAA. So I did that, but then as soon as I got the job at Cornell, I couldn't do that anymore.
Right. And that's very cool. And my question is, do you see, man, when you approach coaching, do you also have that judge inside of you to do both coaching as well as judging? And do you think it's kind of tuning your coaching more?
Well, I think, the more you know about diving, y- you're giving them the technical knowledge to help them improve what they're doing. And of course, that's based on what you think they're going to score on their dive when they do it. And actually, in our league, Division 3 doesn't have the money to pay for professional judges. So the coaches are the judges. So whenever we have meets, like if I have a dual meet with a college, I'm one of the judges, the other college is another judge, and then we'll have like a neutral um, official also judging with us. So you really have to, when you sit on the judge's chair, you kind of have to take off your coach's hat and look at the diver as an, impartial, just another diver, not your diver from your school. You're looking at
Mm.
two different schools and you're judging the dive and not the diver. And you're trying to be as impartial as possible to be fair. Um, but I think that it's kind of hard to separate the judge from the coach because it's a judge sport and they're going to be judged in how they do their dive. So you're coaching them to get a good score and you're judging them um, based on what they did to achieve that dive. So it's
Okay.
pretty meshed together, I think.
That's awesome. Okay, very good. I was wondering, as a viewer, as a fan of the sport, what is the biggest misconception or something that misunderstood about the sport of diving?
I think that unless the public is given a little explanation of what the judges are looking for, if they don't know anything and they're looking at all these different dives, a lot of them will look very similar to each other. So they probably don't know what's the difference. Why did this guy get 8.5s and this guy get 7s?
Hmm.
So if they don't have a knowledge of diving and if you don't have a really good commentator explaining to them why this or why that or why the
Hmm.
judges gave this score or that score, I think it can be confusing. And also the other thing is how do they get their point totals, at the end of the competition and the degrees of difficulty and how do they arrive at giving each dive a degree of difficulty, which it's made with a formula, a scientific formula to
Hmm.
compute the difficulty of each dive, of each number of rotations and twists. And so I think that can be confusing if they don't really know what they're looking at.
Okay, that's very good. Well, this is something for sure that I can we can look up today, and I encourage everyone who's interested to look it up. Um, Now you mentioned that you back in the day you wanted to win all the time. Today you say it's okay sometimes not to win and be perfect about everything. But how do you define success today compared to your early career coaching?
I think success as a coach um, is really the impact that you have with an athlete, and not just during the 4 years, but beyond their 4 years of eligibility, and on into their life. Did you touch that person? Did they learn something from you? Do they remember you, how you helped them? So that's kind of like the biggest impact. I really cherish some of the people that I've worked with in three different, I've worked in every level. I've worked with young kids, I've worked with Division 1 Ivy and Division 3. And I get a lot of I'm still in touch with a lot of my divers that just thank me profusely for what I did for them. And, that's really rewarding to me. I think for me, that's the measure of success. It's not, of course, we all want to win, or I want to win. I want them to win. But I think more importantly, beyond their years of eligibility in sport, is did I impact them in some way?
That's good. Yes, and I appreciate that as a peer coach to coach. I'm thinking about it. You've been coaching in the NCAA, you competed collegiately.
I competed 2 years at Boston University, and then I transferred to Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. I did compete, and I was an All-American, and yeah, but I improved more as I aged and as I competed internationally, which was my main and highest level of competition beyond college. So I really was very lucky because I got a full scholarship to Boston University, and it was my coach who was from Texas, who was coaching at BU, is the one who found me and recruited me. And they were from a big diving family in Texas. His sister represented the United States. And so he knew everything about it. And he's the one that realized you're from Argentina and you can dive in the Olympics for your country. Now, he said this to my parents at the time. My father was working in Argentina. So my mother was like, called him up and said, Cal thinks Veronica can dive in the Olympics for Argentina. And he was like, are you kidding? They probably have tons of divers. And then he called her back and he said, they don't have any divers and they would love to have her. And that's how I started representing Argentina at the Pan American Games in '79 in Puerto Rico. And this was all due to my college coach at Boston University. I
Right.
mean, he was my mentor. He started everything. And I would have nothing of my career if it wasn't for that guy.
That's very cool. I wonder, would after coaching the NCAA or instead, would you ever uh did you ever think coaching in the pro circuit or for the Argentinian or the US Olympic teams?
Well, first of all, there is no pro. There's pro diving, but that's a different thing, like Red Bull cliff diving, that's a different thing. In our sport, there's no pro diving. Um, and in terms of coaching for Argentina, I haven't been to my country in 37 years. I'm hoping to compete at the Pan American Masters Games in October. Hopefully, the shoulder comes around and I'm able to do that
Okay.
'cause it's a big goal of mine to go back to my country to compete. But my country has had financial issues for many, many, many years, and that's always an issue for a lot of the sports there, and especially diving is a sport that before I came along to represent them in '79, they had not had a diver like in 30 years.
Hmm.
So, and I think that me coming in the top 8 in Barcelona was an unprecedented thing for them in diving. Um, but they don't have the money to support or bring in a coach, like, for me to be trying to coach a program like that, and it's so far removed from my life and from everything. I live in the United States, my partner's here. I I don't think that they would do something like that, like, the sport is not one of such high importance there.
Hmm.
There are other sports that they support a little bit more. Um, my sport was an anomaly when I came along. I mean, I had 12, 14 wonderful years of representing them. That was a gift. And then after I retired, there's no level. They have not raised their level in diving. It's very political as well. And so
Hmm.
that's difficult. And really to coach on an Olympic level, you know, I'm not coaching Division 1, regular Division 1. So I'm not at the most competitive levels of coaching. um, you're not going to just become an Olympic coach because you want to. You have to be at the level that you have produced some really good divers that give you enough points to be able to be an Olympic coach because you've proven yourself at the highest levels of Division 1, which is where our US Olympians come from.
Got it. What excites you about the next few years in your career?
I have to see where it's going to go. I mean, this is my 5th year here. I kind of take it one year at a time, and it's a different animal to recruit to Division 3 and to our league. It's
Oh yeah.
mostly New York State kids. But yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I've been coaching for so long. Um, I'm not really sure what the next step is going to be.
Okay, very good. Regardless, I'm sure it's going to be great. I always ask coaches, it's usually team sports, but what's your favorite drill, pool drill, diving drill that you work with your athletes with?
I like to so on the 1 meter board, the low board, I like to stack a couple of mats on it so that it makes it a little bit higher. And we do these things called back lineups. So it's kind of like the preparation for your entry into a dive backwards into the water. So I have them sit on the end of the mat, right at the end of the board, and in a little ball in a tuck position where they're grabbing their shins and their knees are into their chest.
Mhm.
And then I have them roll off backwards and then kick their legs out when they're going to dive in head first in a very low space, which trains them to be quick, to have
Yeah,
quickness. If they're finishing a dive low to the water, it trains them how to enter the water quickly. Yeah, that's the latest thing that we've been doing, and it really has helped the divers to improve a lot on their finishing technique.
very good. And my next visit, I'll try that one with you, hopefully. I don't know. I'm just gonna cannonball backflip to the pool. All right. I want to finish off with a speed round. I'm gonna ask you a few questions. You can answer back in a word or two, whatever makes sense to you. You ready for it?
Yeah,
Okay. One word to describe diving.
beautiful.
What's your favorite Olympic city you competed in?
Barcelona.
Athlete or coach?
Athlete.
The hardest thing to coach?
Motivation.
Yeah. Tell me about it, right? What's your coaching pet peeve?
Lack of change.
Lack of change, or the easiest way to annoy you in practice, rather?
Lack of change. No.
Perfect.
Um, yeah.
The most important quality in a leader?
Understanding.
Okay. One word players use to describe you as a coach?
Intense.
Intense. Nice. If you weren't a coach, what would you be?
Athlete.
Any or a diver? Any of that?
What would I be if I wasn't a coach?
Or a diver? Something outside the diving world.
Well, I said athlete could be not a diving athlete.
Got it. Got it.
I'd
Okay.
always be moving.
Is there anything that in particular that you would want to compete in?
um, I maybe run a marathon.
Okay, perfect. All right, and last question. Coaching, if you had the opportunity, would you rather coach Argentina, representing Argentina, or the United States
Wow,
for the
that's loaded.
Olympic team? Hmm?
That's loaded. That's a loaded question
Oh yeah,
because
always the last.
I I competed for both, and the bulk of my time obviously was for Argentina. So many years and so many Olympics for Argentina. Um, of course, I live here. This is where I live and where my life is, and all accolades, I guess, would be here if that's what you're thinking about. Um, that's a tough one. But even though I didn't grow up in Argentina and I left in the middle of second grade when I was 6 years old, I guess because the opportunity that I had to stay in touch that way with my country.
Hmm.
I mean, I still call it my country, even though I'm a US citizen. I've been here forever. I
Yeah.
speak better English than Spanish, although I'm fluent. The roots run so deep. I that that's kind of a sort of a dream scenario because like I said, my country doesn't really have diving
Yeah.
anymore. They do, but it's so I think they sent somebody to the last Olympics in 2000 in Sydney,
Hmm.
a girl that didn't make the finals. But again, it's like if you don't have good coaching there and the right circumstances to allow people to represent, then you have a dying sport. So I guess I'd probably have to say the US.
Okay, that's fair. And last question, and just out of curiosity, when competing for the United States after representing Argentina, how did it feel? How did it feel different?
Um, I think I felt more supported in terms of financially. You're on the team, you made the team, you're going to wherever. Um, Closer to home. I mean, it wasn't so far away. I saw my teammates like once every 4 years because most diving meets, if it was the world championships or a Pan Am Games or an Olympics, I would see our swimmers and, the other athletes. But if it was just a diving competition, I wouldn't see Argentines because there were no other Argentine divers, and I wouldn't see my teammates until every 4 years. Um, so remind me again what you said the last.
How did it feel
So the
differently?
it just it just felt more like I'm really at the top here because this is the best people in this country. And when I dove for Argentina, I didn't have to go to trials because I was the only diver. So they just
Hmm.
said, we'll have her. And so they allowed me to represent them. I didn't have to fight it out with anybody. When I went to Olympic trials in the States, obviously we had to be top two to make the team. And I didn't make the team for Atlanta. So I felt like it was really a challenge in the US, and you're really among the best in the world to
Hmm.
try to chance for it in the US. Yeah, that's what was different.
That's good. Well, Veronica, I want to thank you. I think this was an eye-opening for me and for all the listeners about this really, really cool and unique sport that not a lot of people get to listen or to watch on a daily, daily or weekly or yearly. Most people watch it in the Olympics.
Sure.
Um, I'm glad that I brought you over to kind of to present the sport and to present your very cool story and all your success. I think you're a remarkable athlete and a
Thank
good
you.
coach. And I hope that if you'd like to take it to the next level, you'll be able to, because I think that athletes such as you can definitely contribute more, whether it's in the US or one day if Argentina would like to kind of take a shift on that sport and bring you over to develop that over there. That could be cool. So I
Yeah.
really, really appreciate all your answers and thank you so much. Was there anything that you would like to add?
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. To be on this podcast with you, with other coaches, other international coaches. I think the difference with me is that I've been in this country for so long, and I think some of the other people that you're talking with are maybe newer, more recent, coming to the U.S. to coach here after coaching in their own country. So I really didn't even have the opportunity to coach in my own country or start my sport as an athlete in my own country. So really, I've been here for quite a while. I think that's the difference. But I appreciate it and the opportunity to be on your program and to talk a little bit about our little sport.
My pleasure. And again, best of luck. When is diving season really?
Oh, we are in university. We at Division 3. We start in September and go all the way through March. The NCAA's are toward the end of March.
Perfect. All right. So towards the end of that season, so best of
Yeah,
luck,
yeah, thank
and
you.
we'll definitely follow. Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to another episode of International Coaches Club. Today it was Veronica Ribot-Canales, an Argentinian dive coach here in the United States. She represented Argentina 4 times in the Olympics, which is incredible. I just want to say it's important to have coaches who are such examples as athletes for when they were athletes in the Olympics at the highest level, even low levels, or even now when she is representing the U.S. in the masters levels, which is really, really cool. I think she's interesting as she's coaching in the highest standards. She doesn't take her foot off the gas pedal, whether she's coaching D1 or D3. And that's kind of tells the story about how elite level athletes are also taking it to the coaching world. So I think this is really cool. I love that she elaborated and explained more about the sport, because a lot of us not really know the sport of diving. So I'm glad to have more information about that. And if you are interested in more, you're more than welcome to look it up, because it's really, really cool. And I think it's important that such a great athlete is given back as a coach in the highest level, competing. You can come back and then feed in the next generations. Argentina, USA diving organizations, if you listen or you know about this great coach, you should bring her over to help you guys out. I'm sure she can contribute a lot. Regardless, thank you very much again for listening. Please like, share, subscribe. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I want you to share it and like it. And please tune in to in the next episode of International Coaches Club.